Thank you for tuning in to Ungentrified with Kent Johnson. Ungentrified takes an unfiltered view on pop culture, music, television and film, politics, current events, and topics central to the worldwide Black community. Ungentrified is a safe audio space for celebrating Black culture in its purest form. What's up, good people? It's your boy Kent, back with another very special episode of Ungentrified. Of course, I have B with me. B, say what's up.
Hey.
And we're super giggly because we've been talking about this stuff before we started, so please excuse us. But we are here to discuss episode 7 of season 4 of Insecure, which was Lowkey Trippin. So, shout out to Jay Ellis because he directed this episode.
Know. I saw that.
Right.
Good for him.
Yes, and shout out to Insecure for expanding the world outside of LA. So now they got money in the budget now. They going international.
I know. They was like, "Oh, we're getting picked up again." Yes.
Right. Those are moves you make when you comfortable.
Like we don't have to save that budget for next season. Yeah, it was good. It was nice to see some change of scenery. I mean, I love seeing all of the stuff in LA because it's just who we are and it's reminiscent and it's familiar, but it's nice to, get out. I mean, Mexico is pretty familiar to both of us too. So it was nice to just see, another culture. We got some more languages going on. It was cool.
Yeah. And this is in continuation of the solo episodes. So last episode was Issa's episode and this episode was Molly's episode, but they are still very much connected. So if we do a timeline, we'll step back to episode 5. 5 was the Royal Rumble, the event and the fight between Issa and Molly. And then the day after that would be episode 6, which is Issa's solo day that we saw in the last episode. And at the end of that day, she was going to get some Ethiopian food from Mercado, her favorite spot. And as she was walking
as predicted by Ken.
Yes, I was right. Look, if we had gotten a budget upgrade this year, we'd be able to call back to that episode. But to last, you will just have to trust that I said this in the last episode. But
or you could go back and listen to that episode and see that he was right.
Yes. Issa was about to walk in. She saw Molly there and opted not to have that conversation just yet and ran back to her car and went on about her way. And I predicted that Molly saw her and I was right. She did see her, but she saw her earlier than I anticipated. She saw her when she was walking up, not when she was walking away. And
was able to prep.
Right.
That I'm too busy in my phone.
Right.
It didn't just so happen. She was like, "Oh wait, let me look busy and unbothered."
Right. And then here go. Oh, here we go. Like she was ready for another
war.
Right. Like another battle. And that kind of attitude only comes from somebody who doesn't think that they were wrong. So that really set the tone for the rest of the episode. Because I don't know about you, but Molly was nasty all throughout this episode. And I'm not talking about Freaky and her Fenty.
Andrew, wish she was that nasty.
Right.
No, she, in the words of 45, she was a nasty woman. She just was angry.
Right. Yeah, she was on a tirade and really projecting whatever issues she had lingering from the fight with Issa onto everybody. Sometimes it ain't completely unjustified, but most times it was. Like she snapped on her secretary at the office, like, yeah, her secretary might have been in the wrong, but like damn, girl, you ain't had to snap on her like that.
Yeah, and I would have been more mad because she had to go into this meeting on her vacation.
Right.
Like she was like, "Oh dang, I gotta go do this meeting," and she wasn't as prepared because she found out so late at night, and so yeah, it just made like she wasn't wrong. It did make her look bad and unprepared,
Mhm.
but also like she was already in vacation mind mode when she was like, "Oh damn, now I got to be responsible and go to
Right.
work."
Yeah, and then look, I've done this before. I don't know you've done this before. When you come to work with your bag,
With suitcase.
right? Because you headed to the airport right after that. When you already in that
Hmm.
mindset, you're not thinking about work anyway. All you're thinking about is
Mm-mm.
that suitcase. And
Like how fast can I get out of here?
right, she came in there, a suitcase. She had on her vacation linens, like everything. She was in that mindset. So for her to snap back
Hmm.
into work, she snapped back at work.
Oh, that poor girl didn't even see it coming because she almost had that we girls we cool kind of vibe. Like, oh, I meant to tell you earlier, but I didn't. And she was like, "Bitch, that's your job." Like she almost like she cut her head off,
Right,
and she was like, "Oh, my bad. Like I thought we was cool, but we not." Okay, you right.
right, right. And
Oh well.
yeah, we know that, like I said, Molly's just in a space. She's in a space.
Hmm.
She's still, even when Andrew brings up the Issa situation as they're packing for the trip, she's still on something about that. And he asks her, like, well, are you going to call her? Like, what's the deal? And that's when she comes right out and says, look, I ain't in the wrong. I'm
Hmm.
tired of this. Da, 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 da. She stay fucking up. Bada, bada, bada. So she gonna come to me. And then she gave a nasty dig that didn't even need to be given. She
Yeah, she did.
she said, what did she say? She said, that bitch
She
ran away
ran
from
from
me
me.
like I was a real job. I was like, dang, like,
Like she hasn't been out of work that long. Like
right,
and she did quit. She didn't like get fired or like really like I guess that means she ran. But she ran or she left for good reasoning, not because she was like scared of work.
right. Yeah, I
I don't
mean,
know.
she stayed in that job for 5 years and hated it. Like, but
Mhm.
people operate differently when it comes to stuff like that. Where, some people are like, you know what, I'm not feeling today, and I'm putting in my 2 weeks today, and I'm not staying in 2 weeks. I'm leaving today. And some
Right.
people will stay in that job that they hate forever because they have the fear of what's on the other side. They don't know what's
Mhm.
going on. And then hell, in this economy, I don't blame them. But
Right.
um, yeah, some people can't understand that people would leave when they're disappointed with how things are working out in their career. So, but yeah, that was a dig that didn't need to be dug, but that's Molly for that ass.
Mhm.
So we found out, I don't know if we've ever been privy to this information since Andrew came into the insecure atmosphere, but did we know he was Chinese? I mean, we figured out, I felt like I figured it out on this episode. They've always alluded to him as Asian Bay.
Yeah,
But,
Asian Bay. And
but
that's exactly what I was thinking too. Like what as soon as I first heard him talking, I was like, wait, do we know what his ethnicity is? Like I just and then I referred back to Asian Bay and I was like, oh, I guess we never talked about it before. No, like they never told us before.
yeah, okay. So that wasn't me thinking that. I was like, yeah, we are just being introduced to the fact that he's Chinese. So,
Hmm.
um,
I really really liked that he was speaking his native language in this whole thing because that's real. Like that's what would happen a lot of times. They don't like like when they're introducing like other ethnicities and cultures, they don't. Even though in real people's lives, if they're on the phone with their family or friends or whatever, they probably would you know go back and forth in the English and whatever that other language is.
right, exactly. So Molly and Andrew are going on a vacation. They hit Mexico for the weekend and for a couple of days, which is something that is very much
A
California thing
Kelly
to do.
thing.
Yeah. It's like people don't realize how quick Mexico is. That's really what, like a 45-minute flight from LA? Because I'm thinking LA to
Yes.
San Diego is 26 minutes.
Is it that short? I feel like it's a lot longer because of the ascent and descent. It takes like an extra 30 minutes just to do those two things.
Right.
And, but yeah, it's really, I don't know about from LA because I've never gone from LA, but it is a super quick flight from San Diego. Well,
Yeah.
I didn't know where they were. I was like, did they go to Cabo? Did they go to Cancun? Because
They went
Cancun is like the
to Puerto
Puerto
Vallarta.
Vallarta.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that is a little bit further south, but
Mm-hmm.
yeah, what that's our like going to the Caribbean.
Right.
Like Hawaii and Mexico are our Caribbean. That's how close. Actually, Hawaii is 5 hours away, so really Mexico is our Caribbean. Like it's a quick shot down on the flight.
Well, you know what? Funny enough, it's quicker for me to get to Mexico, or to Cancun at least from Atlanta, than it is for me to get to like Belize or the Bahamas or anything like that. So
Well, yeah, because it's closer, right? Like
yeah.
when we were flying to Belize, we passed Cancun, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I was saying though, looking at it from there, I was like, oh, I need to get there. But then every time I try to look for flights, I'm like, ooh, that's kind of a long flight.
Yeah. But look, Molly almost didn't make it. She was running late for the flight because the meeting, I guess, interfered with that, and she's
And
already like,
traffic. Remember,
yeah,
she was in the car with the bad driver who was taking a long time.
yeah. So she's already on edge, and we would give allowance for those irritations if she just wasn't irritating about everything else, but we're not giving them to her.
But shout out to Andrew. He held her down because I would have been like, "Ooh, you snooze, you lose." Right?
That call would have been
LAX is a big airport. Like I would have been like, "Ooh," and then he was like, "I see you," and she just does the full 360. He was like, "Why would you turn all the way around?" Like I literally just said, "I see you." Yes, they're kind of a cute couple. They're kind of cute.
Yeah, and see me, I would have been having that call from the seat,
right?
Because look, it don't make sense for look. Somebody got to check into the hotel room.
But like, you didn't make it. I can't even believe it.
Right.
Like,
Oh, but they told me the
I'm
next flight
in.
is.
Yeah, we not as good
Yeah,
of
no.
partners as Andrew. That is clear.
But yeah, they on a vacation. They on a couple's vacation. Travel makes or breaks a relationship. The first trip is key to determining whether or not y'all really real or not. One of my coworkers, she ended up marrying this guy, but he asked her out on a date. They started talking. He asked her out on a date, and the next day he was like, "Yo, I got this flight deal to Hawaii. You trying to roll?" And everyone told her like, "Girl, don't do it. That's scary. No. They worked together. She was like, I know where he worked. Like, it ain't.
He's not gonna murder me,
right?
He's not gonna be looking for Latoya,
right? If he showed up to work on Monday and I don't, people going to want to know what's going on. So, they went, and she said that actually helped because she knew what kind of person he was in a lot of situations early on. So
stressful,
right? So. And she was like, I have money, so I can get my own room if I needed to. So I came into it with a clear mind about it. But they're married and got kids now, so it worked out for them. But for a lot of folks, that first trip,
it does. Yes, it may not work. My first trip with my husband was our 30th trip.
to
To
Puerto Rico, right?
Puerto Rico, yeah. Yes, and I almost left him in Puerto Rico, and I promise. Every trip we took for a long time. After that, we broke up. Like after every trip. So after we got married and we went on a trip, I was like, "You can't leave me now. We can't break up." And our trips now are actually a lot better now that we're married. But before that, we had an out.
Yeah, that rule applies to everything: booze, friends, family. Like,
yes.
People's connections have definitely been altered after a trip. And it takes me to that mindset of like when you've been on a trip with somebody and halfway through the trip, you're like, I'm never going anywhere with this person again. To me, that was
shout out
Andrew.
to that same trip.
Right.
That same trip though. That was Chanel.
Yes.
That was our friend Chanel and our friend Lance, because we was like, because together they both didn't want to try any of the food. They was tired of walking around. They were sticks in the mud, and we were like thinking of all the ways that we were gonna ditch them in Puerto Rico. And I don't think I've ever been on a trip with them since. That was 10 years ago.
I've been on a trip with Lance since. Me and Lance have traveled places together since. So, but I would crack on him about how he acted on that trip. So he's much better now when it comes to traveling. Shout out to Lance and Chanel.
Yeah, he had a lessons learned. I don't know if she has. We were going to test it out for our 40th next year. And Rona's maybe messing that up, but we were going to test it out and see if she's learned her lessons, because they for sure had Applebee's. Was it Applebee's? No, yes, Chili's. They had Chili's in Puerto Rico.
And what was the ice cream spot they went to? Was it Baskin Robbins? It was whatever it was.
It was the Cold Stone Creamery.
Yes. It was not anything Puerto Rican.
It wasn't helado.
Right.
Like, no, they said, "Oh, what American stuff?" And that was me and her in Jamaica. She found the only Burger King, KFC in all of Jamaica and all of Ocho Rio. Now, so that she could get American food.
Now, Jamaican KFC does hit a little bit different than everywhere else in the world.
It does. But it's jerk. It's jerk KFC.
Right. That's it.
And when she had that Burger King, she was like, "Why does this burger taste funny?" It's because it was jerk hamburger too. So she should have learned her lesson then.
Right. Yes, but
anyway, I digress.
I think as adults of a certain age, we've all had that trip where we were like, they can't come with us. No, Mo. And it hurts when you say that and it's somebody who you're in a relationship with. But something tells me that ran through Andrew's head several times throughout this trip. And I would not fault him a single moment for it. And and like you mentioned earlier, I think that it could apply to two people, but I'm speaking mainly about Molly. But it could also be about his brother, Victor. So Victor, his brother, put together this couple's trip. And that's another thing too. It's always touchy when you go on a couple's trip when you don't know the other couple. So it's, the same rules apply. Like, now you just got 4 people to deal with, and 2 pairings of people to deal with, who the pairings understand their nuances but don't understand how to. It's just a recipe for a disaster.
Because he knew that his brother was kind of a little bit to handle, right? Because he said as soon as we get there, he's got a schedule for us. And she was like, "Nah, I'm not trying to do that schedule." And he was like, "I think we should try to do some of the schedule." Like, he was already like trying to navigate between the two groups, because obviously he wanted to spend time with his brother, or else he wouldn't have gone on the trip with them. But also he knew, just how Molly could get. So he was already trying to like negotiate that trip. But I think he had really good negotiating skills on that plane. And shout out to that blanket that saw a lot of action that day.
Right. That's another thing that happens on vacations is that, I don't even think it is vacations, but I think everybody should be this kind of person, a vacation freak. Like, when you're on vacation, all your guards are let down. You should be free to do whatever comes to mind, whatever gives you pleasure, whatever.
That hotel sex, ow.
Right. Yeah. Yes. All of the vacation pleasures and joy should be fully enacted. So Andrew is about it.
He comes hard.
Right. Yeah, Molly's a little light with it. And I was like, but dang, if that's all she came with, I mean, it's nice, but it ain't.
I mean, for her, it was really good, especially like knowing who she is, like in real, not, like in real life. I was like, oh, that's sexy. Nice. But then later on, she turned it up a notch. After she saw. He said, "Oh, I think I misread the memo," because he came out with the hardcore stuff, the balls, the anal stuff.
Right. He brought out the stuff where you got to go behind the curtain.
You got to go into one of those ones with the windows are blacked out.
She or the ones I'm about to tell on myself. The ones when you order it on Amazon and you look for the ones that say they come in a nondescript box, so your neighbors know what you ordered.
Oh no. Are your neighbors really looking that closely at your packages? I'd be concerned.
I don't want to know. And the reason why I don't know is because I be looking for what kind of packaging.
That's funny.
And I think my neighbors are nosy. They are nosy. Because look, if a box sits on my stoop for too long, I'll get text messages like, Amazon just came 47 seconds ago. You might want to. Now,
oh my God, they have your phone number? Oh my God.
You don't have your neighbor's phone number? Oh.
Hell no, I don't have my neighbors. And my neighbors are a lot closer than your neighbors. No. I don't even know my neighbors' names.
Oh, see. Well, and then Southern hospitality here. So, and the most of the people in my neighborhood have been here since the neighborhood was built. So, like, the lady across the street from me was the first person to buy her house. And then, like, the ladies next door and across the way, they, like, came shortly thereafter. So, they're very protective of this space. And they know I'll be gone all the time. Because that was the reason why I got the information. Because, like, whenever I'm out of the country for, however long, I'll be like, look, I got lights coming on in the house automatically, but I ain't there. So,
so you brokered these friendships,
right.
These neighborly check-ins. Are you on Neighborhood Watch?
No, I'm not on Neighborhood Watch, but I am on the Nextdoor app, which is one of the most racist things. But that's an episode for another day.
It is. Mine isn't racist, but they are nosy as hell on there.
No, mine is, again, Southern sensibilities. So.
Did you see those? Oh, sorry.
Right.
Our racism currently is just all over the news with all the Ku Klux Klan and Nazi masks and paraphernalia that's going on right next door to my house. So it doesn't need to be on the Nextdoor app. It's on CNN.
It's on the outside window app. Like it's, you gotta yeah. So we went on a super tangent. We went from Vacation Freak to Racist Neighborhood Watch. All right.
We were talking about how sexy Andrew is and all of his delicious, fun activities he has planned.
Yes, he's definitely a vacation freak, and we appreciate everybody should be a vacation freak. But one thing I'm gonna step back on is doing analingus after having Mexican food. That's something you don't do. So,
but it's still early in the vacation, though. It's still early when they do that, isn't it? No, okay. Because I definitely have had Montezuma's revenge. As a matter of fact, it's just a quick story. Is that when I was getting fitted for my dress, I had a really mean Russian lady who was my tailor, and she just kept telling me, I can't possibly take this out anymore. Like, you're just going to have to lose weight. And I couldn't. And then I went on my bachelorette party to Mexico. And long story short, in that time, I lost 10 pounds. And so I was able to look really good in my dress. Shout out to Montezuma.
Right. But yeah, that was very risky. It wasn't risque like what Andrew did with the toys. It was risky because like you eating a bean every day. Well, no, you know what? No, I wasn't the only one because I was watching people tweets last night and there was a lot of cringe emojis popping off after that. Because I was like, ugh. You don't eat the groceries when the groceries came from the Mercado. Like, you gotta chill on that. But
I was only thinking good thoughts because Andrew. So
yeah. And I was trying to think, was that the first time I've seen? I hate the word analingus. Analingus scene on television. Definitely was for a black show, but I couldn't. I racked my brain. I sat for like 3 minutes and thought about analingus, and it
was noteworthy though,
right?
Because then I was like, how are they going to show this? And she really did turn around,
right?
And
straddle, right?
That's a lot of information. I hope my mom's not listening.
You know what? Shout out to Insecure for pushing boundaries for Black and POC representations of sexual activity.
I even saw someone, they gave them credit for just sexual communication. So like, just telling each other what they like. Because that first night, she was like, I really liked what happened on the plane. And he was like, oh, so you want to get caught? And she was like, I just want to see what happens or whatever. Meet me on the balcony. And they was tearing it up. And that is my cup of tea, just, throwing that out there.
Oh, turning it up to the beat too. I don't know if you noticed that, but
Yeah.
it was to the beat of the song that was playing at the time.
I love all the songs in here. Just to take a quick step back, is right after right after Issa and Molly had that encounter at the Ethiopian restaurant. What was the song that came on? It said something like "suck a dick and die."
Yeah, yes.
And I was like, "Whoa, that is a feeling right there. That is a whole mood."
Right.
So yes, I like the music in this episode for sure.
But yeah, so this episode, we got to see another side of Andrew outside of Vacation Freak Andrew. We got to like really dig into his family setup. So we met his brother. We learned about a little bit more about his sister Fiona, the one that kind of is
the wild one,
yeah,
the one that got away. Yeah.
So, and we see like their dynamics and how things play out. And we also, it gave us a little bit of perspective into how Andrew and Nathan, their relationship is, because Andrew, having a sister who, just assuming based off the clues we've been given, deals with some form of mental health, him having that as a mainstay in his life and his family, and then having his friend Nathan, who we know has some mental concerns as well, he's much more responsive to being open to understanding that, whereas other people might not.
He's more in tune to it.
Right.
Yeah, and he's like, it being such a sensitive topic, he definitely treads like light, not lightly, but he just has like a certain way about communicating that, because that wasn't his secret or whatever to share, but because him and Molly are growing, he lightly put that out there that he was dealing with, not to like tell all his friends business or whatever, but just kind of put that out there like, oh, he was dealing with some stuff. And she was like Molly being Molly, like what? And he's just like, some mental stuff. And, he just kind of like the way that he communicated that to her, and just kind of, you could tell how sensitive it was for him to even kind of like communicate that information.
Yeah, look, Andrew is definitely the voice of reason in this relationship. And we saw it in how the whole fight between her and Issa played out, and how he approaches other people's business, and explaining situations. He's always very even-keeled and not deviating to a wrong side on something. He gives everybody the space that they need to for whatever their situation is. He's very understanding about that. But yeah, I'm glad that they brought that up, and he approached the conversation as if this was a thing that was okay and normal, and something that happens to people, and not, something that was worthy of any negativity or anything like that. So it was definitely,
or even a whole conversation. It would be none of her business, and if anybody wanted to share it with her, that would be their business to share with her. But also just kind of like, this is just what happened. And I think that kind of, especially in the Black community or people of color, community, I think that's like a really like a topic that people don't discuss often or feel some kind of way about it. So I think even just like the way that he handled that conversation opened her back up to like, oh, you know what? People do go through things, and people do need tune-ups, people do need to have these moments of to gather themselves and recoup and stuff like that. So then that kind of led her to, touch base with her own therapist, I think. So I think that whole thing, included with everything else that happens in this episode, I think that's what made her feel like, oh, let me take the time to approach that subject again.
Right. Yeah. Like, Andrew's cool with me from this, especially this season, because he's been putting up and being I'm gonna say putting up. he's been very
No, he kind of been
accommodating.
putting it up.
Yeah, he's been putting up with her shit, but he's been very accommodating to Molly's needs. That's a better way of saying it. Like he's been very responsive and accommodating and picking up on like her buttons and what things,
all her cues.
right?
Yeah, and you know, like a couple people on Twitter were speaking about how he, like we already said, he held the door for her when they went on the hike. He took her trash for her. He got the right drinks for her and snacks and stuff. Like he takes care of her this whole episode. Like he's top notch. I don't know what else to say, but he's amazing. I don't know. And he's taking care of her in every way. So shout out to Andrew.
Yeah, yeah, he's been doing his job and doing it well for her in this episode. But there's a moment where he would have had an allowance from me to go the fuck off, and I'm surprised that he didn't. But I think he understood the bigger moment in the situation. But the towel incident. So everybody's having a good time at the pool at the resort, and Victor, his brother, I forget his wife's name, but she gets some chlorine in her eye. She has a contact lens. And Molly's like, "Oh, I'll go get a towel for you." So she goes to the towel hut, and the lady's like, "Oh, let me see your key card." And Molly's like, "No, you didn't ask that the white people who were just in front of me and got a towel for their key card. Like, why are you asking me? Why are you pressing me out?" And so there's a back and forth where Molly's like, "Bitch, just give me the towel," essentially. And Victor walks by and sees the incident. And was like, here's my key card. She's fine. She's good. And Molly, of course, is feeling some kind of way because this is a moment that is familiar to a lot of Black folks where you are given requirements that aren't required of everybody else to get things done, or you're not given the same assumption of truthfulness or belonging that everybody else in the world is given. So it's definitely a trigger point for a lot of folks, and it's especially something that you don't want to deal with on vacation. Because I don't know about you, but as much as I've traveled the world, I still have like that little voice in the back of my head that's just preparing me for the racist moment to happen.
yes.
Not
exactly
necessarily
why I won't go to Greece.
Right, on a continent. I don't get that too much in Africa. Only in certain places.
Right.
But everywhere else in the world, I'm just waiting for it to happen, waiting for the shoe to drop, and be like, I was waiting for you to show up.
Right. Yeah, I knew you was racist.
Right. I knew it was coming. So, and you don't want to deal with it. So she comes back to the pool with Victor, and Victor plays, and I hate this kind of person, devil's advocate. And prompts the question, well, what if it wasn't about you being Black? What if she was just doing her job? What if, she could get fired if she
might get fired, yeah.
Right. And
he wasn't wrong. Those were all valid points.
Right.
Except for, when race is into account.
Right. And it's like, don't discount what I'm telling you was my experience before you arrived.
Yeah.
And I mean, the scene was constructed in a way to where we don't know exactly what happened before Molly got to the towel space. Them people could have been staying there for a week, and the towel lady knew them at this point.
Just recognize them, yeah.
Right. Or 20 minutes earlier, they could have just gotten a towel from her. Like, we don't know what the situation was. Or they could have actually have shown the key card. We don't know. But
right. Because just like him, you didn't have to give the key card. You just had to show it.
Right.
And so they at any point could have showed the key card, and she just didn't see it, and we just didn't see it.
Yeah, and I mean, like, this is par for the course. When you're at resorts like this, either you got your key card, you got a wristband or something. They be going hard with the towels. Like,
yes, they do.
And can't wait to put on your bill if you don't return that towel. But
like, you took 3 towels and only returned 2.
Right.
I'm like, that was 3 days ago.
Meanwhile, they paid 42 pesos for that towel. They paid a whole bunch of nothing for that, and they're pressing you out for it. But this is nothing new, but Molly, just with everything kind of piling on to her, just didn't need that to be a moment. And then she didn't need it where other people who she was bringing the information to couldn't relate to it. She needed someone to relate to
because she
her.
was all alone
Right.
in this particular group. She's at least 4 sisters thick, and this particular time she was not the only person of color, but the only Black person in that space who would have been able to relate to her.
Right. And the only person who didn't have a history, right? Because Andrew knows his brother. He knows his brother's wife. So they have a familiarity with each other. Molly's the only one coming into this grouping brand new. So Andrew knows his brother is an ass. So he knows his brother plays devil advocate about stuff like this. His brother, I know that type of person, thrives on these situations because they want to have a deep conversation about it.
Yeah, he was like, "Can't we just have a conversation about it?" Nah, right. Man, I'm done. I'm mad right now.
Right. But then it became a conversation around racism and how there's Black racism, there's Asian racism, and sometimes there's some overlap and it's just plain old racism. And sometimes there's nuances to it. And if at first, and then everybody kind of played their role, and we've all seen these individual parts. We've seen the person who is the true ally in a situation, which was Andrew, who was trying to really understand both approaches. Yeah. And then we had Victor, who was playing devil's advocate and not seeing that it was a race issue, but a lot of times in certain situations, when it comes to racism for the Asian community, they benefit as much as receive detriment from stereotypes and things of that nature. And he has more of a space to play that. Well, it might not have been about racism card versus Black people. And then his wife started off.
Lydia, she was trying to be the peacemaker. Like, let me help you calm down. Let me help you calm down. Until Molly snapped to her. She was, and it was so interesting the change in her at that moment because she was like, "Wait a minute!"
Right? Oh hell no!
Yeah, that because she had been kind of just geeked out on Molly this whole time. You're so fit. You're so beautiful. You're so sweet. You're so nice. And in that moment, she was like, "Hold up. I don't need none of this."
Right.
I was waiting for her to go off, but then it kind of it just went the other way.
Yeah. And she brought up the point too, is that, this is how we get separated against the bigger issue. Like, white people hate all of us. So why are we separate? Why are we having this fighting, amongst ourselves when the bigger issue is that white folks got shit to say about all of us individually, collectively. They all got problems with us. So that's, like you said, that she came in very much on a Andrew side and then kind of navigated back to her husband. For it. But all the while, as people are finding their position, and then Molly's still feeling alone in this whole thing. And then she gives a line, and I was like, "Ooh, Molly, that's no, you don't do that." Where she told
no.
She told Andrew that you're different. You're not like them. Which I was like, well, aren't you're doing the things that you hate that happen to us? Because, we've all been painted as, oh, you're a different Black
you're
person.
The exception.
Right.
Yeah.
No, you're not like them. And we all know
you're not ghetto like those other ones. You're not ignorant like those other ones. Yeah.
Right. And then you have to figure out that one. If you're gonna show your stank face to that response.
I'm exactly like the one that you're talking about right now.
Little do you know, I'm all of these things.
Yes.
But yeah, I was just like, oh my, you were doing so good.
Yeah.
You were doing so good. And she just stormed off, and then had the nerve to ask Andrew the next morning, "Did I fuck up?" Hell yeah, you did.
Well, because then when she stormed out, she said, "Get your brother, like check
Right.
him. You better check him." And then she left. So yeah, that the way they went to sleep and the way they woke up told her all that she needed to know about what was going on
Right.
in that foursome.
Yeah, ain't playing with no toys tonight. Ain't no analingus. Ain't no
Nah.
Fenty Savage lingerie. And none of that.
And when she woke up alone.
Right. Yeah, because
Andrew was gone.
that's another no. When you on vacation with somebody, if you don't go to breakfast with them, there's something going on.
Yeah, I just thought you needed the rest. That's code for, but you needed to sleep that shit off
Right.
because you was going way too hard yesterday.
Yeah, and look, this room too small. I needed a break from you. I went and got the continental breakfast and the fruit salad by myself. I ain't got.
And I needed to go and smooth things over with my brother. I needed to go, meet up with him and just see what was going on, like where their heads was at, because that could mess up. I mean, if he had to choose or had gone one way or the other, I'm glad that he stayed neutral the whole time. But if he had said something one way or the other, like that could have that's the kind of stuff that mess up family relationships too.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that I know he had to go smooth that off, and just like she was like, "Oh, I thought we were gonna." Nah, man, they don't want to see you today.
Right.
They
Yeah.
want to do their own thing.
And it was such a good day. They had such a good day. And it was
Mm-hmm.
one of those where you're like, Dad, we was doing so good. Like y'all hiking, zip
Yeah.
lining, going out
Mm-hmm.
dancing, having a good old time. Then boom, racism. Just
It ruins everything.
everything. And then like I said, Andrew really was the best player in that situation because he acknowledged Molly's concern and acknowledged that she was probably right. She because this stuff happens, and
Mm-hmm.
then had to play it cool when his brother started coming with the nonsense, and then checked his brother. He did check his brother. He was like, why are
Mm-hmm.
you doing this? Come on now, like
You're
this
going
isn't
too
required,
far.
right?
Yeah.
So yeah, he was definitely caught in a crossroads, and he went with Team Molly, which is, but it looks as though they didn't see them for the remainder of the trip, which is
No, that was it.
yeah,
Yeah.
ain't no more. No, we ain't going to dinner.
We are
Nah.
not family anymore. Like, go on about your. We are not on this foursome vacation any longer. But
Right.
it looked like maybe it was only. We don't know because it's after they had that breakfast, it skipped to
Them
her
being back.
going. Like her going to the beach alone, and then them yeah. Then was that the same? Was that after or was that before
No,
when she went to the beach to call her therapist?
she went that night, so they had a whole
Oh,
nother
okay.
day there, and then they went home the following day. So yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, after she asked, did I fuck up? She remember I said Molly needs a grace period. Like she'll blow up and then she
Uh-huh.
need a downtime and then she'll come back and realize that, all right, I need to fix something. So yeah,
Mhm.
as you mentioned, she took a moment to herself, went to the beach, kind of laid out and called Dr. Rhonda, who should have been called
Years ago.
season 4, episode 1. She should have been on. And this is, I think,
Yeah.
people do this. Like they go to therapy for whenever they feel like they have a problem, and then the moment things start getting okay, they gone, and they still haven't
Mhm.
figured out like how to
They're like,
maintain
I'm
the okay.
fixed.
Right?
Yeah.
You gotta keep sharpening them tools. You gotta make sure that you know how to handle the new transition that you graduated into. Like you
Mhm.
figured out what the problem is, you've assessed it, you've gotten the tools to work with it. Now you're in your happy place. Let's maintain that happy place. But a lot of people
Yeah.
leave before that, and then be right back uh, where they need to be. So she called Dr. Rhonda and realized that she got an issue with letting go of stuff, which we all knew. We could have been Dr.
Mm.
Rhonda for uh, but yeah, she definitely should have been calling Dr. Rhonda all season long.
Mhm.
And it's I think it's telling too that she didn't call after the fight with Issa, but she called after she thought she might have messed up with Andrew. So it
Mhm.
definitely puts a perspective on where her value structure lies right now. Like she's cast Issa to the look. She can come groveling back when she's ready.
When she's ready, she need to talk to Dr. Ron. That's her thought. She was like, she need to go get some help, and then she could come back to me.
Right. But yeah, so she knows that something ain't right, and she needs to get some things taken care of. And I think it also harkens back to the conversation that Andrew had about, you know, mental health and being in a low place and getting taken care of and being in a good place. And it's definitely a moment that she needs to have soon. So as you mentioned, they left the next day. They're back at the airport, back at LAX, and they run into Lawrence at the airport, who we hadn't seen in 2 episodes now.
Yeah. So, fresh cut and everything.
Right, he had the interview cut. That's
he did.
When you cut your hair
that's
down.
What he was doing.
Every black man knows the interview cut, because when you got comfortable with your last job, you let your hair grow a little bit. You know, your beard might be a little heavier than normal because you got, you know, your 90 days is up. You good. They ain't coming for you. But when you back on the prowl, you gotta acclimate yourself to European standards of acceptance and line yourself up. Get the even Steven on your head. No parts. No fade into the beard. None of that.
No Beijing.
None of that. Keep it clean and very neutral. That was definitely an interview cut. It was a second interview cut because the first one you like, all right, let me test the waters and see. It might have been. Or it might have been a phone interview, so you had to do it yet. So it was definitely a second interview cut.
But yeah, as soon as he said San Francisco, I was like, oh yeah, he was up there doing interviews.
Yeah. And I was like, oh man, they preparing us for him to dip out.
To leave.
Yeah. And then that also explains why he wasn't at the block party, because he had bigger fish to fry. So
although that was, I mean, the interview, that the flight up to LA, to San Francisco and back is really like, that's nothing. That's 30 minutes. Like that's really nothing. So he could have went up and came back same day. So I don't know if that's why he wasn't at the block party, but maybe his mind was somewhere else.
Right. That, or if you were up there, you know, throwing Hail Marys and doing the string of interviews, trying to get seen or you know, what have you.
Networking and stuff like that. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And they see each other and they have that awkward, like,
that was weird.
Yeah, I know you, but we not cool. But like the history is there as far as like the length. So it's like we should hug because we've known each other for 5-6 years now, but we ain't really like that. So,
but I'm supposed to be mad at you, but then I'm not really mad at you. But then like,
but then can she be mad at him? Because he was never in the wrong. He was just a bum for a couple of years.
No, but remember, she was also like, she's going backwards when she was when Issa was talking to him that day. Even though her going backwards to him wouldn't be a bad thing, I don't know. But yeah, but then like she isn't really cool with Issa right now. So like, then you go back around like, so then she should be cool with them because she don't care what they do. So,
right?
I don't know.
Yeah, but it was like
she's a ball of emotions.
Yeah. But they see each other and, you know, do a quick nicety about where they coming from, and then Molly and
she introduced her boyfriend. Yes, this is my boyfriend.
Which is probably if Andrew's thinking like I'm thinking, that's the last time she's gonna be able to claim that name up in this piece after you cut up in Puerto Vallarta.
No, he forgave her already.
Yeah, no, he definitely.
She serviced him on the ride home. It better.
No, she was barely a vacation freak. She's not even a post vacation freak. No, she's already back at work in her mind.
Right, she was answering emails on that flight home.
Right. But we see Lawrence call someone, and you know, want to link up.
I was thinking about you.
Right.
Yeah.
And we're all wondering who. But if you watch the preview for next week, it's Issa.
So
they meet up, and
because I for sure thought it was Condola. I was like, oh, he wants to make amends. They get back together, and he's gonna try to scoop her up and take her to San Francisco with him.
Well,
That
look,
was my thoughts in that moment.
look, damn it, he ain't do nothing wrong. Condola
He didn't.
is the one wrong. Lawrence ain't
Yeah,
never
she
did
wasn't
nothing
over
wrong.
the ex. Yeah, so she ain't going nowhere anyway.
Yeah.
But yes, then the previews, I like, even though I've been telling you all season, like, I don't care if they get back together. I'm done with him. I've moved on. but if my heart fluttered a little bit when they got back together. I mean, like, when they met up for whatever they met up for.
Yeah.
She was like, oh, what's going on? What you want?
Yeah. So the episode title for next week is Lowkey Happy. And I was wondering, I was like, well, is this going to be a Lawrence episode? It would make sense. We haven't seen him in a while. And then, like, every character has gotten, well, every, I guess, quote unquote, main character has gotten their solo episode. And it would make sense for us to find out everything that's been going on with him since we hadn't seen him in a minute. But it's called
I
Lowkey
don't know. It's
Happy.
also episode 8, so
Right.
we closing in. I don't know if we could not waste, but I don't know if we could use a whole episode on him.
Right. Right. He might get like a 5-minute montage at the beginning, a
Right.
quick catch up.
Like that, like when he first started having sex with, like, going out on dates again, and they did that full montage of all the different positions he was doing and meeting up. We could do one of those.
Oh, we could.
not the sex stuff, but I mean, like, whatever's been going on in his life stuff.
Yeah, right. Yeah. So I think that just based off of what we've seen him kind of go through this season, and that conversation, going back to that conversation with his dad about making things work, I see him having two choices to kind of level out and see which one is the one he's going to go with. So he gets his opportunity in San Francisco, but he's doing that one last pulse check to see
if there's anything left to stay in LA for, you think?
Yeah, I definitely think so. I see that as a thing. And I don't know. I think that the happy, because we know all of the episodes kind of allude to whatever's going to be going on in that. I think it's going to be Issa saying that she's in a good space. And them both realizing that maybe the best thing for them was to be apart. Who knows? But yeah, I see that.
I don't know. Your predictions have been pretty on point.
Right.
So I don't know. It could be, but I don't know. At this point, I would be happy if they kind of got back together. But she's been spending a lot of time with Nathan, because, like, how we saw that Nathan and her, they could have just been hanging out. They could have just been chilling, like Andrew was saying. It could be more. Could be like rekindling. We don't know. So, I don't know if that would hold any kind of water when it comes to, like, what would happen with Lawrence or not, because she was in her feelings way back at Thanksgiving, but it's like January, February now, so she might be, like, done with that.
Right and with this whole fallout between her and Molly, it's kind of like when you have a bad district attorney in a county and they get busted for some kind of racial insensitivity, and they go back and look at all of the cases that they handled. So Issa going back and looking at all of the stuff that Molly stuck her nose into and going to find out on her own. So Nathan, Lawrence, like, all of these things. Let me go make my assessment on what went on, because clearly Molly ain't the one to be talking about nobody's relationship. So
right,
it's one of those situations, I think. But yeah, like you said, it's getting close to the end, so we got to have some kind of things closing out as far as what's going on with this friendship, what's going on with Issa going forward. Is Andrew gonna come to his senses and leave Molly be? Whatever it is, we're running out of.
Come to his senses. Dang, why can't he? Because honestly, he's making her a better person, and she's been, like you said, she's been flipping out, but then taking a break and then coming back and resolving a lot of stuff. She might just be, well, she's not making him better, but he might be making her better. But honestly, she's helping him exercise his patience and understanding. So I don't know. They might be growing together, but for sure she's growing. So I don't hope that they break up or move on. I think that they're kind of cute together. I like it.
Like, well, whoever Andrew ends up with is going to be a happy woman.
I hate you. Well, I hope it's me. I mean, shoot, we can't all be, looking for Molly. I got to look out for myself too.
Speaking of looking for somebody, they was definitely looking for LaToya in Puerto Vallarta. Donde es LaToya?
I cracked up. I cracked up. I was like, really? That is a good show. If they're watching it in Mexico at the same exact time, there's no like lag time, then that's a good show.
Right.
That's an international hit.
Shout out to this week's Black actress making a cameo, which was Kim Fields. This week she played
who was going through it.
Right. Played the crazy
crazy airplane
lady,
saver,
right.
who came full circle. She just was getting a divorce from 3 days ago and found love when they saw her at the airport. She was making out with somebody she met on vacation.
Right. Hey.
So she made it full circle. She's moving on.
Right. And look, sometimes when you're a vacation freak, you can go down there by yourself on vacation and find another vacation freak. So,
sometimes you come up looking for LaToya, and sometimes you come back with a bang.
Right. But yeah,
Natalie, what's her name? Natalie Holloway.
Yes. You stupid.
Well, that doesn't happen to us, but sometimes you're her, and sometimes you come back with love. That's all I'm saying.
Right. But yeah, that's it for this week. We will catch you guys.
Talk your ear off.
Yes. Before we start recording, we were like, "Oh, this is gonna be quick." Ain't too much happening, and then it ended up being an hour anyway. But of course, if you like what you heard today, if you liked us breaking down and dissecting these episodes of Insecure, stay tuned because we got 3 more episodes before the end of the season. But you can also go back and listen to the first 6 episodes that we did about the season and all of the recaps that we did for last season. If you are super behind, you shouldn't even be listening to this episode in the first place. So go back and catch up. You can find the episodes wherever you enjoy podcasts or on the website, UNGENTRIFIEDpodcast.com. You can also leave us a comment if you disagreed with what we said, or if you could add to the conversation or tell us what wine someone is drinking in an episode, and please leave us a comment on Twitter or Instagram at UNGENTRIFIEDpod. And of course, if you like it, give us some stars, write us a couple of nice words on the review page. We definitely appreciate that. But until next week, we'll see you later. Peace.
Bye.